Hey everybody, and welcome back to Example of Play. In this video, we're going to continue our Let's Learn series for Dominions 6. So at this point, we've conquered a few of our neighboring provinces from the NPCs of the world, and now we're going to look at what to do with those, do some early game expansion. So we're going to look at how to build fortifications and other structures, how to search for sources of magical gemstones, and how to create magic items to equip our commanders with. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so first we'll look at construction of buildings. What are you going to put in all of these empty provinces that you go out and conquer? One of the interesting things in this game is, unlike a lot of strategy games where you have many different types of buildings to build that give you different bonuses, let you recruit different types of units, all sorts of things. In Dominions, there's only 3 building types really that you can build, but each one is really important. Your starting province will have them, the fortification, the laboratory, and the temple. And then we'll talk about each one individually. And then depending on your nation, you might have some other things, like I have the House of Fiery Justice, lets me recruit some special units and gives me some bonuses. And the Royal Academy lets me build architects, which we'll come back to later. But really, if you go out to a province, let's look at how would you want to build something in one of the provinces you've taken. You'll need one of your commanders there. You can select them and hit space or click there to bring up the orders menu. And then you'll come down here to construct building. And you'll see we really only have a handful of options. We can build a palisades, which is the first level of building a fortification. We can build the lab, and we can build the temple. So we'll come to those later. But first, let's talk about the palisades and fortification. Now, as you go out, you're going to want to build new forts beyond your starting one. Because they give you a lot of benefits. They're a big investment, but they're really important to get built because while you can recruit units in spaces, so like if we conquered this space, usually whatever type of unit you defeated to take that province, you'll be able to recruit those or similar units within it. You can even recruit some like basic commanders and some basic troop types, it depends on the province. So each one's going to have a different selection. But if you want to build your national units, like if we come back here, we see we have a lot of different commanders. We can build a lot of different our national unit types that we can recruit there. To get those, you'll need to build a fortification. But that's not all. Forts also produce more resources, so the space you build them in will produce more resources. If we look over here, consider our income, our resources, things like that we're getting from here versus, say, a neighboring province, way higher, way more significant here where we've got this fortification. And that's because the fort will boost its own spaces production, but it'll also pull in production from neighboring spaces. So it'll increase that area once you build it, if you control those spaces. So you want to build a fort and then conquer all the provinces around it to get lots of resources and income and whatnot from it. The fort is also a fort, so it's defensive. It has a garrison. It's going to be harder for your enemies to take it, so you can put it in places to create like strong points and choke points, depending on how the map is laid out, to defend your lands and keep an enemy army from just running right through and conquering empty spaces if you got those forts built there. And then after you build the fort, you can then build the laboratory and the temple, which we'll talk about later. But first, let's look at actually getting a fort up and off the ground. So down here in the terrace peaks, I have my pretender, the dragon Asbjorn, who has been building a fortification. Probably not the best use of your pretender's time to be building up a palisades, since it takes several turns. If we jump back and say, look at this guy, it takes 1,000 gold and it takes 5 months for it to be built. Basically, regardless of which of your commanders is doing the building, that's how much time it takes. That's 5 turns that you might end up having your fire-breathing dragon pretender god building this fort. So probably not a good use of his time, but just for demonstration purposes here. Now, just an interesting point to note, actually, I changed this order to defend. You can go back if something's been under construction there, and you can continue construction. So if it gets interrupted, you can resume it. So we'll go ahead and resume it. Now we only have 1 turn left to do that, so we're going to go ahead and go to the next turn just to see it get finished off and see if anything interesting happened out there in the world. a death match competition scheduled in the arena. That's cool. And some other things, but the construction of our palisades in Terrace Peaks is complete. So let's go check that out. So now we can zoom in here and check it out. Looking at our province, we see the little icon there for the palisade, and then it appears over here. Now at the top it says what type it is. It's a palisades. It gives us a variety of bonuses, but these are much less than what's in our capital. Administration 15. This affects how efficient it is at gathering resources from neighboring provinces. Basically, the higher the better on that. We're still not getting a commander point bonus and only a 50% recruitment point bonus, but we can upgrade to a fortress to get more. And we have a little garrison there as well. If we just jump back to our capital and look, it's got 60 administration, 2 commander point bonus, 25% recruitment point bonus, so much better. But that's because it is a citadel, which is the highest level of fortification. There is the palisades, the fortress, castle, and then citadel. Now you might not always be able to build up to this. It depends on the era in which nation you're playing, whether you can go up that high or not. And then the architect can be a useful unit in that regard, because if we look, architect's no good for fighting or anything, but is good for assisting with sieges, with defending against sieges, and a kind of unique ability, the mason skill here, lets it build up to upgrade a fortress one step further than normally possible for your nation. So the architect, a very useful special commander, has very particular use, but well worth it if you can snag one of those if you need it to build the higher level of fortifications. Now, if we want to upgrade here, we could have our pretender go do something else while our architect keeps building. And now we see under the construction menu, we have demolish fort. We could get rid of it if we wanted to, or we can do construct building to then upgrade it further to the fortress. And you see the fortress is actually cheaper and faster to build than the palisade, which is the most expensive step, is getting the foundation down. So it's a big investment to start, but then a little easier to keep going to build up to the fortress. Now, if we look, we see there's build lab and build temple, but those aren't available for our architect to build. Only mages can build the labs, and then only sacred units can build the temples. So we'll need to bring one of those over here if we want to build one. And then there's some units that have both of those qualities and can build all the things. So they're a little more versatile in that regard. All right, so now let's look at laboratory. So if we click laboratory here, nothing pops up. So we're wondering, what's that good for? Why do we need that laboratory? Well, the laboratory is basically essential for all things magic. Having the laboratory is going to let you recruit mage characters and mage commanders. It's going to let you carry out a bunch of commands that we'll look at in a second. It's the storage location for your magical gems. So you need a lab. If you find one of these sites that produces a magic gem, you need it to be able to trace a path back to one of your labs for those to actually be collected and stored. It's the place where any magic items you have are stored. Basically, your characters need to come here to pick them up, and also to pick up magic gems, which we'll talk about in a future video. And then they enable you to do a bunch of different special commands there. First, though, we'll look at if we want to build a laboratory. Let's look at, we have a mage commander out here. If we go to construct building, we can see he can build the palisades, but he can also build the lab. Now here it costs 600 gold, and it doesn't have the multi-month requirement for it to be built. It's just one turn, so that's nice. And then once you've got it built, you can do a lot of special things there. Your mage characters get a lot more commands they can do. So if we go back here, open up this guy and see from research down to empowerment, these are all commands you can only do when you're in a province with a laboratory. So research, we talked about in the last video. We need that to contribute points towards researching our next level of magic technology. We need cast ritual spell to cast those kind of strategic layer spells where it takes a whole turn for your mage to cast it. They need to be at a lab to do it. Forge magic item, we're going to look at later in this video, but basically what it sounds like, lets you construct magic items once you've leveled up your construction school of magic. Alchemy, which will open up, lets you exchange your magic gems that you collect. You can change them into astral pearls and then change astral pearls back into fire gems to get the whatever you need, depending on what you have access to versus what you actually need, a way to convert those. And then also empowerment, which we'll talk about. We'll do another video that'll focus on magic, but basically empowerment lets you level up your school, your path of magic, depending on what you want. So like we mentioned, some of those higher level spells, you need 3, 4, 5 level fire magic, but our guys to start with like 1, 2, 3. And this is a way that you can level that up. There's a couple other ways we'll talk about in another video, but this is one way you can spend, say, those fire gems to make this particular mage commander the next level up in fire. So they're stronger, able to cast higher level spells, all that. But they need to be at a laboratory to do it. The laboratory is also where you need to be to collect those magic gems. They need to be able, whichever province is generating them. So like here we found this one generates 1 earth gem per turn. It needs to be able to cast, or it needs to be able to trace a path back to a lab for it to be collected. And then your units need to come to the lab, your commanders, if they want to access the special items. The magic item treasury is basically, it's not stored at one particular location, but they need to be at a lab to be able to get those items and equip them. And then also, we'll talk about again in a future video, to cast those spells that require gems. It doesn't just draw in battle. It doesn't just draw from your national stockpile. That character needs to actually be carrying those magic gems with them, and they need to go to one of your labs to pick them up, which we'll look at later. Which, yeah, all of that together makes the lab be very important. You don't necessarily need them all over the place, but anywhere you build a fort, you're probably going to want to build a lab there so that you can recruit the full pool of units. Like if we come down here, we open this up, recruit, we'll see that we can recruit all of our national regular units, except for we can't recruit our mages up here because we don't have a lab yet. And we can't recruit this one. It's a sacred unit because we don't have a temple yet, which we'll talk about in a second. We'll see if we actually can recruit more units here than at the capital, because we have our national units plus the local ones like the militia, light cavalry can be recruited here too. So that's kind of interesting to note that as you go out and build forts, you can also recruit the local units there, which some of them can be a nice complement to your force, and some of them are just kind of cheap cannon fodder, but something to keep in mind. Let's talk about the final type of structure we can build now, and that's the temple. So if we click temple here, we do actually get a little pop-up with some information. So we can see our dominion stats. So a temple affects your dominion. Remember, that's basically how strong your pretender's power is in the world, like the influence they have. That's this gold line around our domain here. And then the higher that, the more your dominion spreads, it's going to shape the world to be the way you chose for it to be. So when you're creating your pretender, those scales, the bonuses, like we chose to have little productivity, order, luck bonus, all those things are tied to how strong a dominion is in that province, which can be boosted by building temples. Here we see we have 1 temple. For every 5 you build, it boosts your dominion strength up 1. So that's one way to push your dominion out further, shape the world to be more the way you want it to be, and to push back against enemy dominion, which might be very different and detrimental to you. You can see how many province we've converted total. Our dominion strength is 5, chance of spreading dominion 75%. Basically, this is our kind of like our religion, our influence in the world of our pretender. And then this goes into more detail of our success rate of spreading dominion every turn. And then we can see our bless effects. So what happens if we bless our sacred units with the bonuses that we based on what we chose at the beginning. Now dominion, or the temple, like the laboratory, the temple can only be built by certain units. It allows you to recruit sacred units, and then it needs to be a sacred unit to build it. So like if we looked at our mage over here, they can't build a temple. If we look down here, I've got one of our sacred commanders. They can't build the lab, but they can build the temple. So it costs the same, takes 1 turn, just the same. One important thing to know the difference when you're thinking about building labs versus temples is that the lab is not really specific to your nation. It's a structure that exists in that province, And if the province changes hands, the lab's remains. Basically, whoever controls that province has access to that lab because it's not specific to you, really. The temple is different. It is specific to you, which makes sense. It's like a temple to your dragon pretender or whatever you have. And so if an enemy conquers that province, then that temple gets destroyed. So you don't want to leave these undefended because they can be destroyed really easily if they're not in a fort, if they're just left out in the open. Unlike the lab, which you could just throw down wherever and come back to it and retake it if you need to. Now, the other thing they do is, like I said, they let you recruit sacred units. So like if we look again here at this one, we can't recruit like our Knight of the Chalice because that says temple needed there at the bottom because they're one of our sacred units, and likewise with other sacred units. And then the other thing they can do is allow you to have, they are a site for blood sacrifices. So if you're into blood magic, which again, we're not going to play with in this game, so we're not worried about that. But you need a temple to perform those blood sacrifices to do that stuff. Okay, so now let's take a break from constructing things for a minute to talk about searching for magical sites. So at this point in the game, you've conquered a few neighboring provinces, you've built a few extra mages, you're going to want to start using some of those to go out and search for magical sites. Now, these are going to be special, basically perks, special locations in these provinces that you can find that then give you a bonus. So there's a few different types of bonuses you can get, like being able to summon special units, getting a reduced cost for certain ritual spells. But the most common you're going to find is sites that generate more magic gemstones. So like, for example, our nation, our capital starts with this House of Fire Justice. It gives us 4 fire gem, 1 astral pearl per turn, which is great, but we're going to need more than that. If we look out here, this one province we took, it already had this site on it, this Canyon of Sand, which generates 1 earth gem per turn. But there are more to be found, more magic sites to be found that you can't see. You have to send out your mages to search for them. Now, how do you search for them? This is a little convoluted. Hopefully I can make it make sense. Whenever you send out one of your magic characters, they can use this command, search for magic sites, or auto. If you use auto, that's handy when you've got several because they'll just go around to each of the local friendly provinces and search them one turn after another, so that you don't have to keep moving and individually searching if you don't want to. But whenever they search, they're going to search based on their level in specific paths of magic. So if we look at this guy, he has level 1 fire magic. That means if he searches this space, he's going to be searching it at a level 1 fire magic level. There'll be sites there that could be air magic, that could be water magic, that could be earth magic. He's only going to find fire magic ones that can be found at level 1. So it's a little convoluted because you're going to have to do a lot. If you wanted to find all of them, you'd have to do a lot of searching. You'd have to have all those different types of mage characters that have access to those different schools of magic to find them all. So you're probably not going to find them all. But if we look here, we can see that in this space, once you search one, you'll see this will pop up that we've searched it with a level 1 fire mage right here. So we know we've already done that, but all these other ones still remain. And then if we were to come back with a higher level fire mage, there might be sites we would find that the level 1 guy couldn't find. The guide says a level 1 will find about 60% of the sites that it could find. A level 2 goes up to 80%, and then level 3 would be almost all, but maybe not necessarily all. So using a level 1 is going to get you the majority of the sites, but you could still be missing some. Then that becomes the question of, okay, again, my like level 3 mage guys, they're really strong. They can do a lot of important things. Do I want them out searching for these sites that they might find? There's like lower chance that there's going to be anything, but it might be useful to find. Or am I going to have them fighting in battle or doing other stuff that's more important? That's kind of one of those strategic questions. But like I said, just because you sent out, if you had a level 5 fire guy and sent him out, he might find everything that's under fire, but he's not going to find any of the stuff that's under water or earth. And so there could be sites there you're still missing. And hopefully that makes sense. One interesting thing to know is that if an enemy faction discovers a magical site in one of their provinces, it becomes known. So it's kind of like public knowledge. So then if you take control of it, you get control of that site. You don't have to search for it again. You won't know what kind of searches they've done, but you'll have access to anything that they found. So that can be helpful, especially maybe finding some of that stuff you wouldn't have found on your own. You can actually see what they've already found and take it for yourself. Now, just for an example, let's set this guy to search, and then the auto search will also, it'll only search places that like this character might find something new. He's not going to research again in some place where it's already been searched by someone his level. So that's good to know. This site has been searched already. Let's just set a few up. We'll have our pretender with his very high level fire magic. If there's anything there, he's going to find it. And that might be all the mages we have out and about. Yeah, we'll go ahead and just in turn see if we find anything, just as an example. So we'll close that, see. So that changes to 1 there. We didn't find anything. Down here, so this says 5, so we've searched there with a level 5 fire magic, didn't find anything. So no luck that turn, but if we did find something, that's how you would do it to go about finding it. So magical sites, yeah, the more of those you find, that's gonna give you more accumulation of magic gems and other bonuses. So you'll want to search all your provinces for at least at level 1 to see if you can find anything, and then eventually probably a level 2, maybe level 3, to make sure you're not missing anything. Now on to our final topic for this video. At this point in the game, you could start creating some magical items to equip your commanders with. If we look up here, we have the magic item treasury, and we can see that we actually have a eye shield, which is like a magic shield, gives us some bonuses. And that was an item that I just found when conquering a province, just happened to be there. So a nice magic item. If we wanted to look at how to equip that to someone, easy enough. You come in here, select it, and then these are all our commanders who are in this home province where we have a laboratory. So again, they have to be at a laboratory to be able to access these. So we'll slap it on this guy. He's probably going to be in combat more than anybody else. And then if we go and look at him, we can now see in his inventory. So you can equip quite a bit of stuff to your characters. And he has that eye shield equipped, which gives him some bonuses. And then if we clicked it here, we could exchange it with one of our other commanders in the space, or we could send it back to the lab. So those can be moved around even after they're equipped. But now let's say we don't want to rely on just finding magic items out in the world. We want to make some for ourselves. So first off, we will need to have researched construction magic at least to level 1. If you remember in the last video, each odd level of construction will let us craft more and more powerful magic items. So the level 1, we can do trinkets all the way up to artifacts. With the trinkets, we do have a nice selection here, but it's going to depend on what kind of magic the person crafting it has access to, what they can actually build, which we'll look at in a second. So to build one of these things, or to forge one, we need one of our mages, and they need to be at a location with a lab, like we mentioned before. And then we can come in here and give them the command forge magic item, and we'll see here what they can craft. There's many different categories of equipment, but like this guy, he's level 1 fire. We have the earliest, just a trinket level. There's really only 3 things that he can even make. A fire sword, which is cool enough, and then he can make a ring of fire, pendant of courage, but only a few things. But now if we come down here and look at this guy, he's level 3 fire magic, and he has astral magic. He can craft quite a bit more. He can do the fire sword, but he can also do enchanted sword and shield or spear, and then he can craft a variety of other stuff as well. If we right click on an item, we can see what its requirements are. So it needs like air magic level 1 versus the ring of fire needs fire magic level 1. And then it's going to tell us what it's going to do. Fire magic gives us fire resistance plus 15, cost 5 fire gems to make. But we're going to make a fire sword because that sounds cooler. So it requires fire magic level 1 to make, has a cost of 5 gems, 5 fire gems, and it's going to boost their magic damage 10, whoever's equipping it, and give their regular attack, defense, bonus, and length of their attack. So it gives them a little more reach if they have this equipped. So we'll just have him make that fire sword. Actually, we'll have him make an enchanted shield. How about? And we'll have this other guy make the fire sword, since he can make that. And then it'll take 1 turn for them to do that. So we'll just end the turn so that they can make those things. And then now if we come back to our magic item treasury, we'll see that we have a selection of stuff here that we can equip. I'd already made 1 fire sword before, so there's 2 there. You can equip these out in a couple different ways. You can click here and you'll see these are the units that are in this location with our lab. So they need to be at a lab to equip these magic items. And you can just click one from here. So we could give it to this guy. Do like that to, or he already had that other shield. So we'll give this to somebody else. Just dish out some magic items here. Now if we come and we can see here, he's got the icon and he's got some stuff equipped. We open him up and we see he's got the fire sword. He's got that eye shield from before. And so we've boosted his damage quite a bit and given him some extra defense. We can see down here the stats from all the stuff he's got equipped. Another way we can equip things is just seeing here. We can click on these slots and it'll take us to the treasury. And then we can click here to hand it off to someone else or send it back to the treasury, or we can just throw it away, but we don't want to do that. So that's how you can craft different magic items and then equip them to your characters to make them stronger in that way. Okay, so I think that covers everything I wanted to hit on in this video. So early expansion, you've gone out, you've conquered some provinces, so now you know how to build stuff in those provinces to extend your influence and gather more resources. You know how to find magical sites to give you more magical goodies, and then you know how to craft magic items to kit out your commanders with more and more powerful gear. And it's another thing for your mages to be doing or spending those resources on, which as the game goes on becomes kind of your strategic decisions of where do you put your resources as far as building infrastructure, researching magic, searching for new magical sites, spending those gems on spells, spending them on magic items, a lot of different options. And that's where Dominion 6 gets really cool, is that there's not really one right answer. It just depends on the nation you've built out, what your strategy is going to be, what you want to focus on. And there can be strong ways to go about all the different things. And it's just you deciding where you want to spend those resources, where you want to focus. So I think that will be enough for this video. Make sure you hit like and subscribe for the next one. I might do magic, might do something else, but we'll come back around to Dominion 6 here pretty soon and keep exploring the game. Thanks for watching. Bye.